There are some historical mysteries that may never be cracked, from the date that Jesus was born to the location of Cleopatra's resting place. Sometimes that's because the relevant excavated material has been lost, or an archaeological site has been destroyed. Other times, it's just that nothing new is likely to surface, and what's left behind is too fuzzy to settle the debate. And honestly, that's what makes them even more intriguing. So join us for today's video, as we're going to look at 15 unsolvable mysteries, all hidden inside the object's history left behind. Let's start off with number 15. The unusual metal cubes of Coventry. Well, magnet fishing usually pulls up rusty nails or old coins, but in 2020 a father and his kids dredged something far stranger from the waters of Coventry, England. Small lead cubes inscribed with unfamiliar symbols. At first glance they seemed like nothing but junk, but historians took one look and recognized something else entirely. The markings mirrored sacred Hindu symbols, some tied to astrological charts and others hinting at ritual purpose. No one knows how these objects ended up in an English river or why so many were found in one place. The materials are heavy, dense, and intentionally shaped, too precise to be casually discarded. Theories range from religious offerings to lost artifacts from an immigrant community whose practices were never documented. But no records connect these cubes to any known cultural tradition in the area. Without context, they just sit there, silent, cryptic, and entirely out of place. Coventry has its share of history, but this came from a chapter we've never read. Number 14. Coral Castle. Florida doesn't exactly scream medieval mystery, yet tucked away in Miami-Dade County stands Coral Castle, a sprawling hand-carved fortress built entirely from limestone. Its creator, Edward Leeds Conlon, worked alone and never explained how he moved or lifted over 2 million pounds of stone, some blocks weighing more than a modern semi-truck. No cranes, no crew, just a man with a broken heart and a set of homemade tools. He spent nearly 3 decades shaping the site, often working at night, away from prying eyes. Visitors who came by day found stones perfectly aligned, gates that spun effortlessly on balance points, and a monument that defied the engineering norms of the 20th century. Ed once hinted that he'd discovered the secret of the pyramids. Some say magnetism. Others think he manipulated gravitational forces, but no one really knows. After his death in 1951, the tools vanished. So did the explanation. Coral Castle remains standing, heavy with questions and entirely silent on answers. Number 13. The Shroud of Oviedo. Most people have heard of the Shroud of Turin, believed by many to be the burial cloth of Jesus. But there's another relic with an even more intimate claim, the Shroud of Oviedo. Unlike the Turin cloth, this smaller, blood-stained fabric wasn't meant to cover the whole body. It was wrapped around the head, possibly in the final moments before burial. Measuring just 33 by 21 inches, the cloth is soaked in blood consistent with wounds to the scalp and face. It surfaced in historical records as early as the 7th century and was eventually housed in a cathedral in Oviedo, Spain. Some say it journeyed from Jerusalem through North Africa, crossing centuries and continents before finding its resting place in 840 CE. Modern forensic studies in the late 90s showed surprising consistency between blood types and wound patterns found on both the Oviedo and Turin cloths. Whether divine or historical, it carries a violent story in its threads, one soaked in pain, secrecy, and still no certainty. Number 12. Quasicrystals. For centuries, scientists believed crystals followed one golden rule: perfect, repeating symmetry. Rotate them at set angles, and they'd always look the same. Six-fold rotational symmetry was thought to be the limit. Then in 1982, Professor Dan Shechtman saw something that didn't fit. While analyzing an aluminum-manganese alloy, he discovered a structure with 10-fold rotational symmetry. It was elegant, complex, and utterly forbidden by the existing laws of crystallography. He'd just found a quasicrystal. The scientific community didn't welcome it. He was mocked. Some even demanded he give up research. But Shechtman stood firm, and eventually others replicated the results. In 2011, he won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Since then, quasicrystals have been found in meteorites, suggesting they may be older than Earth itself. They've also been created in labs using artificial conditions, often requiring extreme temperatures and pressures. These aren't just pretty shapes. They rewrite the very architecture of matter, and they came from a man brave enough to say, "Look again." Number 11. The seismic toad device. In the year 132 CE, during the Han Dynasty, a man named Zhang Heng introduced something astonishing: a bronze instrument that could detect earthquakes from hundreds of miles away. Shaped like a large urn, the device was decorated with dragons and toads, each facing a cardinal direction. When seismic activity occurred, a small metal ball would drop from a dragon's mouth into the open mouth of a toad, indicating the direction of the tremor. The mechanism inside remains a mystery. No original device has survived, and modern versions are just reconstructions based on ancient texts. Still, historical records confirm its accuracy. One ball dropped during a calm day in the capital, and days later, a messenger arrived from a distant province, reporting an earthquake just where the ball had pointed. In an era with no seismographs, no satellites, and no scientific consensus on tectonics, this toad-faced invention didn't just predict the Earth's shaking, it humbled modern science with its silence and strange precision. Number 10. The human skull cup. Inside Gough's cave in Cheddar Gorge, archaeologists made a discovery that stopped them cold: a human skull deliberately shaped and polished into a drinking cup. It's 14,700 years old, and it wasn't made out of panic or desperation. This was precise, practiced, and clearly intentional. The surrounding remains show butcher marks consistent with flesh removal, bone cracking, and blood drainage. This wasn't just survival, it was ceremony. Some researchers believe this was a form of ritual cannibalism, a way to honor the dead by consuming or preserving them as sacred relics. Others lean toward raw necessity in an unforgiving environment. But the careful shaping of the skull, the smoothing of the edges, the way it was designed to be held in two hands, it says something more than just hunger. It suggests purpose, meaning, maybe even reverence. What it doesn't say is simple brutality. Whatever it meant to those who created it, this skull cup stands as a chilling window into a world we'll never fully understand. Number 9. The giant footprints of Syria. Carved into the stone floor of a 3,300-year-old temple in Ain Dara, Syria, are a pair of footprints, each more than 3 feet long, with a stride that stretches 10 meters across the threshold. They aren't random decorations. They're precise, deliberate, and placed in such a way that whoever or whatever they represent appears to have just stepped into the temple. The site was dedicated to a powerful deity, possibly Ishtar or Baal, and the structure's architecture mirrors ancient Mesopotamian temples with lion sculptures and mythological reliefs. But the footprints, no records explain them. Were they meant to mark a god's literal arrival, a divine presence captured in stone, or were they metaphors for power, size, and dominion in a world where myth and reality were inseparable? Some scholars suggest they represent a god's invisible path. Others wonder if they reference stories long lost. These carvings don't scream for answers. They quietly suggest that parts of history will always walk just out of reach. Number 8. The 1.8 billion-year-old nuclear reactor. At first, the uranium samples taken from Oklo, Gabon in 1972 just seemed off. Scientists noticed the uranium-235 concentration was unusually low, strikingly similar to what's found in spent fuel from modern nuclear reactors. That was impossible, or at least, it should have been. But digging deeper, they found evidence of a natural nuclear reactor that had once operated underground. And not for a few days or weeks, this thing sustained a chain reaction for over 500,000 years, nearly 2 billion years ago. No human hands are involved, just rock, water, and freakishly perfect conditions. Still, some physicists, including Nobel laureate Glenn T. Seaborg, argued the odds were too precise. The water needed to moderate neutrons had to be just right. The uranium had to be concentrated far above what occurs naturally today. And somehow, it all worked. Is it a natural wonder, or evidence of something we've completely missed about Earth's ancient past? No theory fits neatly. And that's what makes Oklo still burn with questions. Number 7. The drill bit in coal. In 1852, John Buchanan reported a discovery that science still doesn't know how to file away: a steel drill bit entirely enclosed within a slab of coal. Not near the coal, not wedged into a crack. Completely trapped inside, with no seams, no drilling path, and no sign of how it got there. The coal itself was embedded beneath layers of clay and rock, part of a seam that took millions of years to form. Buchanan, a respected geologist, presented it to the Society of Antiquaries of Scotland, who quickly dismissed it as a mining mishap. But his original documentation described a smooth, clean layer of coal, enclosing the bit, no tunnel, no intrusion, no evidence of recent disturbance. So either a modern tool somehow landed inside ancient geological material without disturbing it, or the object is far older than it should be. There's no definitive explanation, just an artifact stuck in the wrong layer of time, silently daring someone to make sense of it. Number 6. The Iron Pillar of Delhi. In the heart of Delhi stands a 6-ton iron column that refuses to rust. It's been exposed to heat, rain, pollution, and the grinding wear of centuries. Yet this one, 500-year-old pillar remains smooth, clean, and shockingly well preserved. Built during the Gupta Empire, the pillar is believed to honor the god Vishnu or commemorate a great king's victory. But what draws scientists isn't its symbolism, it's the metallurgy. The iron is 98% pure, lacking modern anti-corrosion elements like manganese or sulfur. Still, no rust. Some researchers credit a unique combination of high phosphorus content and local climate, which created a protective film over time. Others argue that ancient Indian blacksmiths were working with knowledge we haven't fully recovered. The techniques used remain partially unexplained, even after decades of study. While much of ancient history is judged by what eroded away, this pillar's mystery lies in its defiance, unmoved by time, untouched by decay, and still whispering secrets about forgotten skill and lost science. Number 5. The Koh-i-Noor Diamond. Diamonds usually symbolize beauty and power, but the Koh-i-Noor drips with blood. This 105.6-carat gem, now locked inside the British Crown jewels, carries centuries of chaos. Its origins stretch back to 14th century India, probably pulled from the Kolar mine. But who held it first? No one knows. What we do know is what came after. Mughal emperors lost empires. Persian warlords were betrayed. Sikh rulers met violent ends. Every hand that held it saw the tragedy unfold. By 1849, it landed in British hands, gifted under suspicious terms. Since then, only queens have dared wear it, because legend says any man who tries is doomed. Not metaphorically, doomed. Some dismiss it as superstition. Others think history is just that brutal. But look close, and you'll see a pattern too specific to ignore. Until the diamonds return, or fate has its final word, the curse will stay alive, etched into royal tradition and stained in silence. Number 4. The Cocaine Mummies. In 1976, an archaeologist studying ancient Egyptian mummies stumbled upon something strange: traces of tobacco that raised eyebrows. Tobacco's native to the Americas. It shouldn't have shown up in Egyptian tombs. People called it a fluke, probably contamination. But then came the bombshell. Later tests revealed cocaine and cannabis embedded in the tissue of multiple mummies. Cocaine only grows in South America. This means either something's terribly wrong with our timelines, or we're missing an entire chapter of history. Could Egyptian traders have crossed the Atlantic centuries before Columbus? Some researchers think it's possible. Others claim the findings are flawed. But no one's fully explained how multiple substances, native only to the New World, ended up in bodies buried thousands of years ago in the Old World? Was there a forgotten global trade network, a seafaring link between ancient worlds? Maybe, maybe not. But the science still holds up, and the question still lingers. What else have we misread in the pages of history? Well, these dudes were enjoying life in full party mode. Number 3. The Devil Seps Bible Mystery. The Codex Gigas isn't your average medieval manuscript. It's nearly 3 feet tall, weighs over 160 pounds, and contains a full-page illustration of the devil himself. Nicknamed the Devil's Bible, this 13th century creation is wrapped in legend. One version says it was written in a single night by a monk who bargained with Satan to avoid execution. Extreme? Sure. But even modern scholars can't explain how one person could have written it with such consistency. The handwriting doesn't change not once over 300 pages. It's too uniform, too perfect. The book contains everything from the Old and New Testaments to texts on exorcism and medicine, but it's page 290 that disturbs everyone, an enormous grim depiction of a horned figure with claws and glowing eyes staring back at you. Facing it is an image of heaven, a cosmic face-off frozen in ink. Who made this, and why? Whether it was a plea for salvation or something darker, the Codex remains one of the most unsettling mysteries in religious history. Number 2. The Merry Man Mystery. You don't just miss something that's 1.7 miles tall, unless it's in the middle of nowhere. The Merry Man appeared out of thin air in 1998. Etched into the dusty Australian outback near a town most people have never heard of. It shows a man, possibly an Aboriginal hunter, gripping what might be a stick or a spear. But the precision, bizarre. The lines are sharp, the curves are flawless. No bulldozers, no survey records, nothing. The local indigenous communities had no part in it. No artist claimed it. Then whispers began about a reclusive sculptor named Bardius Goldberg. He liked massive cryptic pieces. But Goldberg never took credit. He died in 2002. And even if he did make it, how? GPS wasn't common back then. Planes weren't seen over the area. No tire tracks, just a perfect giant etched into the earth. Was it art? A message? A prank so elaborate it became archaeological? It still sits there today, watched by satellites, forgotten by answers. Number 1. The Viking Sword Enigma. Vikings didn't just storm castles, they mastered metallurgy centuries before anyone else figured it out. Enter the Ulfbert swords. These weren't ordinary weapons. Forged between the 8th and 11th centuries, these blades are so advanced they belong to a different era. Most swords back then were soft, brittle, and unreliable. Ulfbert's, sleek, razor-sharp, and nearly indestructible. The metal was so pure that modern metallurgists were baffled. A similar quality wouldn't reappear until the Industrial Age. Which begs the question, how did Viking blacksmiths pull this off? One theory suggests they learned forging secrets through trade with the Middle East. Others claim the technique was lost to time, some knowledge buried with the smiths who wielded it. The swords bear a single inscription, plus Ulfbert, plus a name that became a legend. But was Ulfbert a person, a guild, or a code? Nobody knows. What's certain is that these blades shouldn't exist with the technology of their time. And yet, there they are, perfect slices of the impossible. If you've enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content like this. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you very soon.